Derek, you like what you saw last night?
Some positives for sure. It's tough. You do care about the outcome, but you care about maybe some individuals, maybe the overall structure, and there were some positives. Obviously, love the pushback we had in the end. And so, yeah, I just think a step, good and bad.
Interesting, Fabry, guys coming off a surgery, a long absence. I mean, how important is that first game to get that out of the way?
Very important, and I think him scoring, give him some confidence, I think was very important. He had some looks throughout. He was a big part of our first goal too. He caused a takeaway, and Simon got it to the goal line and sprung finish. So, yep, some definite positives there with Fabs.
You mentioned yesterday in reference to Casper and Kosa that a little bit of like growing pains are sort of
Yep.
a natural part of the process as a coach. How do you balance like putting them in positions where they can thrive with allowing for some of that?
That's a great question because you need those experiences. It's just a reality of it. And Kosa goes in there on the road against a very good, deep roster from Washington, and it's a 2-1 game. You want him. He needs those experiences, but you don't want him to fail. You don't want to pile up on him, if you will. And I thought he did good. Probably could grow and want both goals back, but he made some great saves. He looked the part. I thought he did great. Body language was good. A couple of big saves. He gets that experience, and hopefully he keeps growing off that and keeps developing. So I'm pretty happy with Coast last night.
A couple of preseason games under the belt, camp already kind of underway. Has there been any key themes that maybe have been recurring or you're trying to emphasize more than others?
Yeah, just like any team, you do some tweaks and some enhancements and some growth in some of your different structure. I think we're in the middle of trying to do that. Personnel's different, so that's a little bit different too. But again, I've been fairly happy with that part of it. Get a full practice today, which we worked on a lot. Some things we're trying to build up on, and probably introduce maybe even some more special situations, maybe tomorrow, some goalie pull situations, and then get another game to work on some things tomorrow.
You pointed to Fabry a few different times in the last week or so here. What did you like seeing from him so far?
He seems to have some pop. When he's competing, he's winning battles, keeping plays alive in the O-zone. He did that, made some plays on the rush, and obviously he finished at the end there. Yeah, just some positives building on him. I still think, where he is physically, he's going to have those ups and downs, and obviously last night was an up.
You mentioned that he played like 20 games last year with the cracked foot in addition to everything else that's going on with him. I mean, you kind of feel he's one of those guys that you just haven't seen
Yes.
what he can do when he's fully healthy.
That's a great observation. You could have been in our room a few times, coaching staff-wise, through the summer and even early on. So yeah, and I still think, he's growing with being a little more healthy every day, a little more consistent with it.
Tom talked about what it's done for the room to kind of have a good feel for who the group is already going in. What has that been for you guys as coaches?
Well, I still think there's some competitive spots, but yes, I think you can kind of see how things have played out, even through free agency. Obviously, Steve's not acquiring these players or adding them, not to be a big part of things. And I reference this in Traverse City. I really give our credit to our leadership group. They did some things off the ice even before Traverse City for a little inclusion. And I thought it made for a very comfortable camp for some of those guys and a good start.
You've got a week to go, Derek. I mean, in your mind, is this starting to come together, or is it still kind of
No,
open-ended?
I think it's open-ended, and you knock on wood, you hope to continue to stay healthy. I do think there's going to be some tough decisions in all three positions in a good way. I'm not necessarily. There's going to be some tough decisions roster-wise, but there might be even some tough decisions on who's slotted where night one. So, yeah, I still think we're working through quite a bit there.
Is there a world where you guys would carry 3 goalies again, or is that something you guys are...
Yeah, that's probably a management feel, but I will say it's early, and they've both only got one game experience, but from everything I've seen in camp so far, very positive on all of our goalies. So what does that look like? I think camp will still play that out.
Just kind of the conversation with Billy for how many games you try to get him before.
Yeah, that's a matrix. We spend quite a bit of time in the summer, and then, it's just an interesting process in that, this is kind of when management gets involved in it, which is the reality. It's what you need to have. They may want to see different things for different reasons. They look at bigger picture a lot different than we do. It's an ever-changing. Our goalie matrix has already changed, but we do want to get those guys as comfortable as possible to be ready. Billy will get his first look tomorrow, playing the first half of the game.
How do you kind of look at similar matrix thoughts? You have 7 guys with strong NHL experience
Yes.
on the back end. How do you kind of look at and you try to figure that out? Obviously, at some point, things will handle themselves, but
Yep.
as you go into the season.
A good luxury to have. I think even Steve called me in the midsummer and asked if Petrie's someone that you think would fit what we're doing. It was a quick yes, but with the understanding we'd have to manage it because those are 7, which we look at NHL established D. But it's a good luxury to have, and as you know, I did a few times last year. I'm not opposed to 7 and 11. Some special teams may play into that. Some simple play may play into that. Some opportunity maybe to rest some guys may play into that. So we still don't know what it looks like. I thought we did a pretty good job communicating that with our guys in the summer and kind of letting camp play out.
Do you see pros sometimes do with the 11, or maybe you can sneak one of those top line
Yeah,
guys?
that's exactly. I think 11 can be hard to play against when you're on the road simply because it's more minutes. All it does is usually adds 2 or 3 more minutes to your top guys, and sometimes it may be tough to match up at home.
With Shane, what are some of we saw the power play success. We've seen that. What are some of the things you need to see outside the power play from him?
Well, it's a good question, but I don't know if it's more. I've been impressed with some things. I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised, but again, you get a feel for a player being in the league for so long, everything he's done. I mean, I remember him being a star back in college, so I think I'm fairly familiar with him as a player. But until you have him day in, day out, gets around the ice way better than I anticipated. He defends better than I anticipated. He's got a little more edge to him. He's had a really strong camp. I mean, again, you guys are. I love Detroit media because you guys do have some knowledge of the game, and a lot of times some of your questions come from what you see, and I'm sure you're seeing the same thing. He's played extremely well, so I don't know if it's necessarily what we need to see. It's just the body of work we keep seeing.
Derek, Bassey's injury, I mean, does that give everybody else in the division a little more glimmer of hope or something?
No, I don't think so. That's John Cooper strives on adversity. He probably didn't sleep much when he got that news, and then he probably went right to Tampa versus the world, no Vassy. And they still have 3 or 4 of the best players in the world, but that's why he's probably the best coach in the world. So I don't necessarily think that gives anyone. I mean, they were a 500 team, just above, for most of the start of the season last year. And then, as a talented veteran group usually does, they hit their stride. So I just hope Vassy's healthy and gets back. He's an absolute superstar, arguably the best goalie in the league. And big picture, you never want to see any of those guys be out of the league.
How does Fisher help you as far as being a harder team to play against?
Heavy. I just think he's got an energy about him. He's such a positive guy. Again, you see these players from afar, then you get them in the room, and you get a different feel for them. So, hopefully he can play to his identity and kind of be who he is. And he saw parts of it last night. That's why he played exhibition games. He also turned some pucks over that I know he was frustrated with. I'm sure he doesn't want it to be part of his game. So, again, That's a guy who was experienced in the NHL and a really good, positive teammate.
If I recall correctly, I think the family stayed in Tampa last year.
Yep.
for you. So are they up here now?
They are
Is it
here,
nice- is it
yep.
nice to be home with?
It's awesome. Even last year worked out fine. We kind of made a pact, not to get too personal, but I made this coaching journey, kind of made a pact that we'd never be apart. Last year was different, just some circumstances, so I'm ecstatic they've been here, and they've adjusted extremely well. Community here is phenomenal, and just little things. We're busy with 2 games this weekend, but I'll be able to see a bunch of hockey and sports this weekend, which didn't have that luxury last year.
And-
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, and they found a place to play hockey up in North.
Yep, they're both Little Caesar.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both into the Little Caesars Mafia. So, yes.
It's like back in December and January in terms of the weather.
Yes, that'll be different for them. We'll see how that goes for them, for sure.
In the context of continuing to experiment with different line combinations, what sorts of markers of progress or chemistry are you looking for to indicate that something might be worth sticking with?
Yeah, I think performance. Like, obviously, I think it's pretty obvious what we tried to do in the first 2 games. We had 2 NHL lines in game 1, 2 NHL lines in game 2, and kind of seeing how chemistry, can they drive offense? Are they winning their shifts, their games? At least with those 2 and 2, they're usually getting good matchups. Obviously, last night in the road at Washington with their world-class top guys, you could be vulnerable and put in some bad spots, but I thought they did well. So, yeah, just you kind of have a vision of what maybe it looks like, and then you kind of get to play, and you never know. Different things look, last year I would not have seen David Perron and Dylan Larkin, and then all of a sudden those guys analytically were driving offense. So when Kopp and Rass had some time together, I go far back as Tampa, before our 2 Stanley Cup runs, we were playing around the lines forever, and then kind of settled on Yanni Gord, Blake Coleman, and Barclay Goodrow by default. And it may have been why we won the Stanley Cup. So, this is what the luxury of 8 games gives you. You get to see some different looks and get a different feel.
Ron and Larkin surprised you?
Well, obviously one guy is one of the fastest skaters and puck transfers the entire league, and the other guy is not. But the other guy manages below the goal line, pucks off the alley. They just complement each other. Maybe a little feel. That's my point. And when you look at them, you wouldn't think they could play together just because the pace is so different. And all of a sudden, DP strengths help Lark's strengths, and Lark's strength helps DP strengths, and it was a really good line. So again, with that added depth this year, I think we're going to see a lot of those different type of looks.
You're talking about the Coleman Goodrow line. When does the line go from something that you tinker so much throughout a year? When does it make one leave that one alone?
Yeah, I think it's just when it fits. They just started winning shifts. They turn into a checking line. They turn into an identity line. I think when they find an identity, in whether it's an offensive identity, whether it's defensive identity, where they drive play. And again, things get stale at times. I do foresee us playing around the lines quite often through early into the season. But that, for me, is a luxury where I just, didn't feel like we had a lot of that last year, and especially, obviously, after the deadline.
Derek, your team's playing 6 games in 8 days. How taxing is that going to be, and how do you plan to work your week next week?
Yeah, that's why you have the 2 teams going. So it is taxing, but you'd be smart with who's playing when and what. Maybe even push some of those young kids past their comfort level just to get more looks for them. But yeah, of course, we want to be smart. We want to get as many good reps as possible. What energy levels is going to be on the back of our minds too. We want to be as fresh and ready as possible in New Jersey.
What about the coaches?
Yeah, you laugh. It's a grind. But it's not. It's, again, I can't believe we do this for a living. This is an absolute privilege to coach in the NHL. For a couple of 16, 17-hour days to start the season, it's a really good trade-off for the quality of life and honored it is to play in this league.
Have you ever considered, some coaches in preseason occasionally, they'll go up top and watch it, head coach go up top?
Yeah, I just think it's really important to be around for each games. Maybe later in my career, I may not, but I think being there in the process, leading the process in game nights, I think is extremely important. Even the red-white game. I coached a team and ran those. It's different people, different. Are we getting a bunch of growth out of it and a ton of? Are we getting an advantage where a coach that goes up in the press box? I don't know. It's just personally, I like to be hands-on with that type of thing. So I don't think you'll ever see me up top watching one from the press box. I know it's very important to give those American Hockey Leagues some bench time like that, and it absolutely kills boogs and tangs, and again, it's just part of being in the fight, if you will. All right, thanks, guys.